Hey guys, welcome back to another deck profile. My name is Illusion, and today I'll be bringing you guys my updated version of my Bastion deck for Standard. This is in fact the same list that I took to locals like about a month ago. You guys probably have seen the videos before. I took it to locals. We had 4 rounds of it. I only lost against the Bruce player, my friend Austin, and this list in general is pretty good. This is in fact also the WGP build, the one everyone's been seeing in the Japan tournaments, and the one that's always been topping. And I figured I might as well just bring this build into the US and try it out, see if it works, and in fact it really does. So without further ado, let's get on to the deck profile. So starting off with the ride line, we are running the 1 copy of Knight of Heavenly Bow base. You can really run whatever starter you want for a Cater Sanctuary. I just choose base because it fits with the aesthetic. Next up, we are running 1 copy of Fort. So Fort's skill reads that when this unit is rode upon by Rooks, you reveal 2 grade 3s and you reveal the top card of the deck. If it's a unit, you call it. If it's not a unit, you place it into the drop zone. Basically, the only reason why we run this card, I mean, 1, because it's the right line. 2nd, because it helps fill the board with either like another grade 3 for an attacking, or you can get like when you're grade 0s or grade 1s for a booster. But primarily, you really want to try at least go for the grade 3. Next up, we are running the 1 copy of Rooks. So when Rooks is rode upon by Bastion, the Apex ruler Bastion, you may reveal 3 cards from your hand, and then you draw a card. So pretty much, just enables you to draw an extra card for the turn. Just really helps with the deck. Its 2nd skill can come up, but I hardly don't even use it just because it's never going to be on my field unless Pure Light imprisons it. But other than that, you pretty much only just use it for the draw stuff. And finally, for the ride lane, we're running 1 copy of Apex ruler Bastion. So Bastion's main skill is when during a drive check, when you reveal a grade 3, you may discard a card from your hand, stand 1 of your units, and gets 10k to the end of the turn. So this basically enables you to have multi-attack in the deck. So from going from 3 attacks, you're able to go into 4 attacks. And its 2nd skill, gives 2k to all of your grade 3 units, so basically making everything into a 15k. And you pair that with like a booster, it becomes 30k total. So I mean, that's pretty much about it. All right, moving on to the main deck, we are running 4 copies of the brand new Apex Surpassing Sword Bastion Prime. I really love this card. I think it's a great addition to the deck, and its skill is really awesome as well. So going over its skill, its first skill reads that all your front row units gain 2k during your turn. And it is seen like a little bit like a downside from the original Bastion 2k skill, but its 2nd skill pretty much makes up for that. So once per turn, at the end of the battle, you drive check a grade 3 or greater. You discard or Soul Blast a card with Bastion in its name, and then all your grade 3 units gain plus 10k power, and then basically they all stand. I don't know if I said that, but they all stand and they gain 10k power. Huge improvement from the original Bastion skill, and honestly, this enables you for you to go from 4 attacks in order to be able to attack 5 times. Other than that, it's basically your new main boss unit of the deck, and it's just my personal opinion, it's just a really huge improvement of the original Bastion. Now, this is a Bastion deck that heavily relies on using a Bastion card for your Bastion Prime skill, so we have to run the 3 extra copies of the regular Bastion. Other than the fact that you use this card just for your cost for your Bastion Prime, it does have another usefulness to the deck. Bear with me. So instead, let's say if you don't get your Bastion Primes in your hand, like when you're about to go into for the push, you can use this card instead for your Persona rides. It's just another alternative in case you don't get the Bastion Prime. But other than that, is pretty much you're primarily going to be using this for either like an extra rear guard, or you're going to be using it for your cost for your Bastion Primes, or you just use it for your Persona rides. And that's pretty much about it. Alright, going to another of the staple grade 3s. We're running 4 copies of Grand Heavenly Sword Alden. This card came out in set 1 and it's always been a staple ever since. So reading its skill, when this unit is placed on the rearguard circle, you may counterblast 2, soul blast 1, choose a card from your hand and call it to the rearguard circle. And if you call it grade 3, you're able to draw 2 cards. Now that's just really important, seeing, because with Nirvana and Arcs, being able to draw more cards, it really helps with the deck. And then the second skill reads, when it attacks, if you have 3 or more grade 3 units, this card gains 5k until the end of the turn. Now, the cool thing about this card is that it stacks. So, basically, when you attack first, you get 5k, and then you activate like Bastion skill during the drive check. You restand it, and then it attacks again. It'll gain another 5k. So technically, it's gaining 10k power if it attacks twice. That's really helpful for the deck, just because this deck doesn't have a lot of power rear guards, or at least rear guards that gain power on the attack or whatever. So basically, this card is like your main beats deck of the entire deck. Alright, going on to another of the staples of the deck. We are running 4 copies. Let's see if we can get them aligned. Yeah, that's fine. 4 copies of Knight of Broadaxe for Fluke. So its skill is on auto and rearguard act on rearguard. Put this card into your soul, choose one of your rearguards, grade 3 rearguards, and gains 10k power until the end of turn. So now, why do we run this out of 4? We run this at 4 just because the extra 10k will help when you're attacking, but also you use this to fill the soul, and we use it to fill the soul for another card that I'll be going over soon. But more importantly, you use it to fill the soul in case for your Aldens or for the other card that I'm about to be explaining soon. So that's why we run it at 4. Now another for the deck, we are actually running 4 copies of Darkstrain Dragon. So this is the reason why we run Refluke at 4, because of Darkstrain. Darkstrain is insanely important, especially in this meta. Well, by the time you're seeing this, we'll probably be in the lyrical meta, but because Pure Light is still a deck, we run this card just to sort of rust through the soul. And what I mean by that is when you're playing as Pure Light, when it's placed, it gets the ability where it takes 2 cards from your field, 2 cards from your hand, and then, more importantly, 2 cards from your soul. So that's 6 cards that your opponent is stealing. However, if we're able to empty out the soul as quick as we can, then Pure Light won't have enough targets to put into the prison. So that's why we run Darkstrain as 4. Just because of its skill, basically when you have 3 or more grade 3 units, you soul blast 2, and all your grade 3 units can boost. So not only does it empty out the soul, it also pluses by giving your grade 3 units the ability to boost. And that's really helpful when you're attacking with big numbers, especially on your Bastion Prime turn. Other than that, this card is insanely important, especially with the Pure Light matchup. If you're not playing Pure Light, it's still important, but it's not as important because Pure Light is the only card that basically takes cards from your soul. But that's pretty much why we run this at 4. All right, going over to a new card, we are actually running 4 copies of Heavenly Enclaps Dragon, Embrace Dragon. So the only reason why we're running this card is because we need shield, and normally we have enough shield with the triggers, but considering the fact that right now more decks are getting more cards to increase their power, basically hitting over let's say the 50,000 mark, it's becoming a lot harder for decks like Bastion that really heavily rely on its attacks to basically protect itself. But this card helps a lot. So when this card is placed on the Guardian Circle, you choose one of your grade 3 or greater units that's being attacked and gets 10k power to the end of turn, end of that battle. And then, however, if you choose the grade 4, aka your Bastion Prime, it gets 20k instead of 10k. So now basically what that means is that if you're guarding with this card, for your Bastion Prime, it becomes a 20k shield. That's really important because right now, cards in the meta are gaining so much power from their effects or from their Vanguard effects, and it gets really hard for us to guard against these really high number attacks. So that's why we run this card at 4. And lastly, for the grade 3s, we are running 3 copies of Lagriel, Heavenly Shock of Distinction Lagriel. So its skill reads that when it attacks, you may counterblast 2, rest as many units on your field, as many rear guards on your field, and until the end of that battle, this unit gains drive check. And then, depending on how many rear guards you rested, you must discard the following cards. So if you rested 3 or less rear guards, you had to discard 3. However, if you rest 5. If you rest 1 or less rear guard, then you discard 5. Sorry, I got those mixed up. However, this is how I like to use this card. I usually rest 4, so that way I don't have to discard anything, unless I get like a grade 3 or like a Bastion. In that case, I activate Bastion skill, discard, restand everything. So this basically ups your chances of getting a grade 3 during your drive check, because with Bastion Prime is specifically, you have to attack with the rear guards first, and then you attack with the Bastion Prime. You get a triple drive with the Bastion Prime. However, there is still a chance, and this has happened to me before, that you do not see a grade 3 or greater. But Lagriel helps out with that. With my matches, I don't know if you guys even saw those matches, but with my matches, I never saw this card or never used the effect. Mostly just because I don't know why I couldn't see this card. I really love its effect, getting more drive checks. I've been wanting to use its skill like forever in that tournament. However, I don't know why I didn't see him at all. But if you do see him, you do have the counter blast. I would suggest using him. Rest 4 units, go into your Bastion Prime, etc. Basically, swing with 5 drive checks. You run this. You don't want to maximize this card out just because it's not as important as some of the other cards in the deck. And plus, you can use like the extra counter blast. Let's say for like Alden or another any other card for that matter. But that's really why I run this card at 3. Alright, moving on to the grade 1s. We're just running the 4 copies of the PG, the Aegis Meyer Dragon. Nothing really much else to say about this card except, as a PG, pretty much all decks right now in Standard need to run PGs, and the second skill being able to, not discarding a card from your hand if you have 2 or less cards for the cost of the skill. It helps a lot. I would recommend, if you are not able to get this card, because I know Aegis Meyer Dragon and all the rest of the PGs right now are really super expensive for some of the budget players. I would recommend running the trial deck PG. However, if you're able to get this card and you want to bring this like a local tournament or even like Springfest, for example, I strongly recommend you buying Aegis Meyer Dragon, because sometimes the second skill can come up. Alright, moving on to the triggers, we are going to talk about the Overtrigger, which is the Light Dragon Deity of Honors, Amarantha Noah. Nothing really much else to say about this card, just the fact that, it is the key to Sanctuary Overtrigger. It helps out being able to drive check more when your reveal is during your drive check. It really helps a lot. I know this card is really pricey, but this card is, I want to say, essential for the Bastion deck, only because, just being able to get twin drive for your rear guards attacks, that's just insane for this deck. If you can't get it, I would recommend getting it. If you can't, just run the Create Elemental Overtrigger. But I strongly advise you to get this card. This card is insane. Alright, next up we are running the 4 copies of the Blade Feather Dragon. This is the effect trigger. We primarily run this card just for the Soul Charge ability. So if you guys don't know what this card does, so at the end of battle, this card boosted. You put this card into Soul, and then choose one of your units and gain 2k until the end of the turn. The 2k doesn't really help, just because well, it's 2,000 power. It's not as impactful as let's say like 5,000 power. But I mean, it can come in clutch or whatever. But we primarily use this card for the ability to add more soul to, like, say, your Bastion. That way you can use, let's say, like Darkstrain's ability to boost your, to give your units boost. And we actually not running the rainbow triggers. We're actually running 4 more copies of critical triggers. So in total, we are running 8 crits. And I mean, nothing really much to say about this card, just because, you know, it's a vanilla crit. That's pretty much about it. That's all it does. You need crits to win games. Alright, for the next set of triggers, we are running 3 copies of the new draw trigger that came out in DVT04. I like this card just because, you know, it adds more shield to the card, making it a 10k shield on your opponent's grade 3 turn instead of a 5k shield, which really does help in some cases. Other than that, you know, it's a draw trigger. You need to see them during your checks to, you know, draw more cards. And either that, or if you have them in your hand, they're basically good ditch fodders. And last but not least, a good Overdress deck or good standard deck cannot be complete without its 4 heal triggers. Again, nothing really too much to say about this card. It's heal trigger. You need them to win, to at least stay alive. And that's pretty much about it. So that is it for the Bastion Prime deck profile. I really love this deck. Honestly, it is my favorite deck of all Overdress, and I'm just really glad of how well it's turning out. Honestly, you know, Bastion Prime really helps out with the deck, and you know, the new draw triggers, they help out. And honestly, I just can't wait for, you know, new stuff. I can't wait for like new support for Bastion. Honestly, I mean, that's pretty much about it. All I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. If you guys want to see more deck profiles, please let me know. I have some more coming up in the near future. I'm either going to be making another like standard deck profile or doing a V premium deck profile, whichever one I feel I want to do the most. So without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.